The gate agent looks at the boarding pass, then looks at the woman standing before her, then looks at the boarding pass again. She does not try to hide the smirk that crosses her face. "First class," the pass says. "Seat 2A, the window." The gate agent turns to her colleague, a younger woman with blonde highlights and a name tag that reads Brittany, and she does not lower her voice when she speaks. "Are you seeing this?" The colleague leans over. Both of them look at the woman. Both of them look at her worn cardigan, her sensible flats, the small carry-on bag that has seen better decades. The older gate agent, whose name tag reads Patricia, lets out a sound that is not quite a laugh, but is not anything else either. "Ma'am," she says, and the word carries a weight that has nothing to do with respect. "Ma'am, I think you might be confused about your seat assignment." The woman standing before her does not flinch. She does not step back. She is 62 years old, and her name is Denise Carter, and she has been standing in front of people who believe she does not belong for her entire life. She says nothing. She waits. Patricia waves the boarding pass like it is evidence of a crime. "This says first class." Denise nods. That is correct. Patricia's smirk deepens. She exchanges another glance with Brittany. Brittany covers her mouth with her hand, but her shoulders shake. "Ma'am," Patricia says again, "first class is very expensive. Are you sure you didn't mean to book economy? Perhaps there was a mistake when you purchased your ticket." Denise feels her pulse in her throat, but her face remains still. Her father taught her this. Her father, who flew B-52s over Vietnam, while men called him names that still echo in her nightmares. Her father, who became the third black commercial pilot in United States history and was spat on in airports from coast to coast. Her father taught her that dignity is not given, it is kept. She looks at Patricia and she says, "There is no mistake. That is my seat." Behind her, the line grows longer. Denise is aware of the other passengers, aware of their impatience, aware of the particular quality of silence that falls when people are witnessing something they know is wrong, but have not yet decided whether to name it. Patricia sighs the sigh of someone being tremendously inconvenienced. She picks up her phone. She dials a number. "Yes," she says. "We have a situation at gate 47. A passenger claiming first class." She pauses. She looks at Denise. "No," she says into the phone. "I just want to verify. Some of these people, you know." She does not finish the sentence. She does not have to. Brittany is openly laughing now. She has stopped pretending. Denise stands perfectly still, and she thinks about her father's hands, how they looked on the controls of a 747, how they shook when he told her about the things he endured so that she could fly. She thinks about her mother, gone now 20 years, who sewed captain's wings onto Denise's childhood jacket and told her, "You will go higher than any of them. You will go so high, they will have to look up to see you." She thinks about the 37 years she has spent in the sky, the 23,000 flight hours, the emergency landing in Denver that saved 156 lives, the commendation from the FAA, the letter from the president. She thinks about all of this, and she says nothing because she has learned that sometimes silence is the loudest thing in the room. Patricia hangs up the phone. She looks at Denise with an expression that is somewhere between triumph and disgust. "Ma'am," she says, "I'm going to need you to step aside while we sort this out. The first-class passengers are boarding now, and we cannot have you holding up the line." She says the word you like. It means something else entirely. Denise Carter was born in Cleveland, Ohio, in 1962, in a hospital that had only recently begun admitting black patients to the same floor as white ones. Her father, Raymond Carter, was 31 years old and had already logged more combat flight hours than most pilots twice his age. He had enlisted in the Air Force at 19 because he loved the sky and because he knew the sky did not care about the color of his skin. The clouds did not segregate themselves. The wind did not ask where he came from. Up there, he told his daughter when she was old enough to understand. Up there, I was just a pilot. Up there, I was free. Raymond Carter came home from Vietnam with a distinguished flying cross, a bronze star, and a body full of shrapnel that would ache every time the barometric pressure dropped for the rest of his life. He applied to every major airline in the country. He was rejected by every major airline in the country. Not qualified, they said. Not the right fit. Not what we are looking for at this time. He applied again, and again, and again. In 1971, Trans World Airlines finally hired him, and Raymond Carter became the third black commercial pilot in American history. He flew for 28 years. He was spat on in airports in Dallas and Atlanta and Chicago. He received death threats in the mail. He found a noose hanging in his locker in St. Louis and reported it to management and was told that some of the guys were just joking around, that he should not be so sensitive, that maybe this job was not for him if he could not take a joke. He kept flying. He kept his dignity. He kept his hands steady on the controls while passengers demanded to be reassigned when they saw him in the cockpit. He kept rising. Denise was 8 years old when she first sat in a cockpit. Her father had arranged for her to visit the flight deck after a trip from Cleveland to Los Angeles, back when such things were allowed, and back when the sky still felt like a place of wonder rather than a place of fear. She sat in her father's chair, and she looked at the instruments, and she felt the hum of the engines through the soles of her feet, and she knew. She knew with the certainty of a child who has found the thing she was born to do. She looked at her father, and she said, "I want to fly." Raymond Carter looked at his daughter, and he did not smile. He knelt beside her, and he took her hands in his, and he said, "The sky does not care who you are, but the people on the ground will never let you forget. If you want to fly, you have to be better than everyone else. You have to know more, work harder, stay calmer. You have to be so good that they cannot ignore you, so good that their hatred breaks against you like waves against a rock." He paused. He looked out the cockpit window at the endless blue above. "And then," he said, "you have to fly anyway. You have to fly even when they tell you that you cannot. You have to fly even when they try to bring you down. Because the sky is yours as much as it is anyone's, and no one can take that away unless you let them." Denise went to Ohio State University on an Air Force ROTC scholarship. She graduated first in her class. She flew F-15s for 8 years, logging combat missions in Desert Storm, watching men who had doubted her fall silent when they saw what she could do. She transitioned to commercial aviation in 1996 and was hired by United Airlines after a recruiting officer saw her record and said simply, "We would be fools not to take you." She flew for 26 years. She became a captain. She became a training captain. She trained over 200 pilots, men and women from every background imaginable, and she taught them all what her father taught her. The sky does not care who you are. Be so good they cannot ignore you, and then fly anyway. Patricia is still holding the phone when the supervisor arrives. He is a man in his 50s with a stomach that strains against his uniform and an expression that suggests he has dealt with situations like this before and knows exactly how they will end. He looks at Denise. He looks at her boarding pass. He looks at the computer screen. He frowns. "This is unusual," he says. Denise waits. The supervisor looks at Patricia. "Did you verify the purchase?" Patricia nods. "It came up valid," she says, but still. She does not finish the sentence. She does not have to. The supervisor understands. He looks at Denise again, and something in his expression shifts. It is not kindness. It is something more like calculation. "Ma'am," he says, "I am sure you understand that we have to be careful. There have been cases of fraudulent bookings, upgrades that were not authorized. We just want to make sure everything is in order." Denise has heard this before. She has heard every variation of this speech. The words change, but the meaning never does. "You do not belong here. Prove that you do." She reaches into her bag. She pulls out her wallet. She removes her credit card, the one she used to purchase the ticket, and her driver's license, and she holds them out. The supervisor looks at them. He looks at her. He does not take them. "Ma'am," he says, "I am not sure that will be necessary." Behind Denise, a voice rises from the line. "Oh, for God's sake!" Denise turns. A white woman in yoga pants and expensive sneakers is shaking her head. "Just let her on the plane," the woman says. "We are all going to miss our flight because you think she stole a first-class ticket. Do you know how ridiculous this is?" Patricia's face flushes. "Ma'am," she says to the woman in yoga pants, "this does not concern you." "It concerns all of us," the woman says. "We are all standing here watching you humiliate this woman for no reason." The supervisor holds up his hands. "Let us all calm down," he says. "We are simply following protocol." "There is no protocol that says you have to treat black passengers like criminals," the woman says. The word hangs in the air. Black. It is the first time anyone has named what is happening. The supervisor's face goes red. "That is not what this is about," he says. Denise watches him. She says nothing. She has learned that sometimes the most powerful thing she can do is let other people see what is happening without her having to explain it. Patricia clears her throat. "The boarding pass is valid," she says. "I suppose she can board." She says it like she is doing Denise a favor. She says it like Denise should be grateful. Denise takes her boarding pass from Patricia's hand. She does not say thank you. She walks toward the jet bridge, and she feels their eyes on her back. And she remembers her father's words. "Be so good they cannot ignore you," and then fly anyway. The first-class cabin of Flight 847 is quiet and cool, all leather seats and muted lighting, and the particular hush of wealth and privilege. Denise finds her seat, 2A, the window. She has always loved the window. She sat in the window seat on that first flight with her father, all those years ago, and she pressed her face to the glass and watched the world shrink beneath her and felt for the first time like anything was possible. She settles into her seat now, and she closes her eyes and she breathes. The flight is from Atlanta to San Francisco, 5.5 hours, and she is going to visit her daughter Maya, who is pregnant with her first child. Denise is going to be a grandmother. The thought still startles her sometimes. The idea that time has passed so quickly, that the little girl who sat in her father's cockpit is now 62 years old with gray in her hair and wrinkles around her eyes and a lifetime of sky behind her. She opens her eyes when she hears footsteps approaching. A flight attendant is standing in the aisle. She is young, perhaps 25, with blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail and a smile that does not reach her eyes. Her name tag reads Megan. "Can I help you?" Megan says. Denise looks at her. "I am fine," she says. "Thank you." Megan does not move. She looks at Denise's boarding pass, which is still in Denise's hand. She looks at the seat number. She looks at Denise. "This is first class," Megan says. Denise nods. "Yes," she says. "I know." Megan's smile tightens. It is very expensive. Denise says nothing. She has already had this conversation today. She does not intend to have it again. Megan leans closer. She lowers her voice, but not by much. If there has been some kind of mistake, she says, I can help you find your correct seat. There is no need to be embarrassed. We can sort this out quietly before the other passengers board. Denise looks at this young woman, this girl who has decided that Denise does not belong in a seat she paid for, and she feels something shift inside her. It is not anger exactly. It is something older, something heavier. It is the weight of every time she has been questioned, every time she has been doubted, every time she has walked into a room and felt the air change because people saw her skin before they saw her. She says very quietly, I am in my correct seat. Megan straightens. Her smile disappears. Ma'am, she says, and the word is a weapon now. I am going to have to ask you to come with me. We need to verify your ticket before the flight can depart. Denise does not move. She says, I showed my ticket at the gate. It was verified. I am not moving. Other passengers are boarding now. They are filing into first class, stowing their bags, settling into their seats. They are watching. They are always watching. A man in a business suit pauses in the aisle. Everything okay here? He asks. He is looking at Megan. He is not looking at Denise. Megan shakes her head. Just a seat issue, she says. We are handling it. The man nods. He moves on. He does not ask Denise if she needs help. He does not ask if she is okay. Denise thinks about her father sitting in cockpits while passengers refuse to fly with him. She thinks about the letters he received, the threats, the noose in his locker. She thinks about how he kept flying anyway. She looks at Megan and she says, I would like to speak to the captain. The words hang in the air. Megan's face goes still. Excuse me, she says. Denise repeats herself. I would like to speak to the captain. Please. Megan blinks. She recovers quickly. Ma'am, she says, when the captain is preparing for departure. He does not have time to deal with passenger complaints. This is not a complaint, Denise says. This is a request. I would like to speak to the captain. Around them, the first-class cabin has gone quiet. The other passengers are watching openly now. A woman in 1C has stopped scrolling on her phone. A man in 3A has set down his newspaper. They are watching, and they are waiting, and Denise can feel the weight of their attention, like sunlight on her skin. Megan's mouth opens, closes, opens again. She is calculating, Denise can see. Calculating the risks, calculating the optics, calculating whether it is worth escalating this situation, or whether it would be easier to simply dismiss this woman, this black woman in the cardigan and the sensible flats, and move on with her day. Megan chooses escalation. She always chooses escalation. People like Megan always do. She straightens her spine, and she lifts her chin, and she says, Mom, I am going to have to ask you to leave the aircraft. You are disrupting the boarding process and making other passengers uncomfortable. The other passengers. Denise almost laughs. She looks around at the other passengers, at their expensive clothes and their designer luggage and their carefully neutral expressions, and she wonders which of them is uncomfortable. Which of them will speak up? Which of them will do what the woman in yoga pants did at the gate? None of them move. None of them speak. They watch, and they wait, and they do nothing. I am not leaving, Denise says. She says it quietly. She says it calmly. She says it the way her father taught her to say things, with the weight of absolute certainty, or with the dignity of someone who knows exactly who she is and will not be diminished. I purchased this ticket. I am in my assigned seat. I have broken no rules. I am not leaving. Megan's face flushes red. Fine, she says. If you will not leave voluntarily, I will have to involve security. She turns. She walks toward the front of the cabin. She disappears through the door that leads to the jet bridge. Denise sits in her seat and she waits. She folds her hands in her lap. She looks out the window at the tarmac, at the luggage carts and the fuel trucks and the endless gray expanse of the Atlanta airport. And she remembers the first time she was asked to leave a seat she had paid for. She was 23 years old. She was in uniform. She had just graduated from flight school, top of her class, and she was flying home to see her parents, and a flight attendant told her that the seat she had booked must have been some kind of mistake, that maybe she should move to the back, where she would be more comfortable. Denise had moved. She was young then. She did not yet know that she did not have to. She learned. She learned the hard way over and over in airports and boardrooms and cockpits, that there would always be people who looked at her and saw only her skin. And she learned that the only way to survive was to stand her ground, to refuse to shrink, to be so good they could not ignore her, and then to fly anyway. The door to the cockpit opens. A man steps out. He is tall, perhaps 60, with gray at his temples and lines around his eyes, and the 4 stripes on his shoulders that mark him as the captain of this aircraft. His name tag reads Captain Michael Torres. And he is looking at Megan with an expression that suggests he has been interrupted in the middle of something important. "What is going on?" he says. His voice carries the authority of 30 years in the sky. Megan points at Denise. "That woman," she says, "is refusing to verify her ticket. She is being disruptive. She is making other passengers uncomfortable. I have asked her to leave and she has refused." Captain Torres looks at Denise. He takes 1 step toward her. Then he stops. His face changes. It is a remarkable thing to watch. The way recognition moves through him. The way his eyes widen and his posture shifts and his mouth falls open just slightly. It is the face of someone who has seen a ghost. It is the face of someone who has seen a legend. "Oh my God," he says. The first-class cabin goes silent. Every phone is out now. Every passenger is watching. They do not know what they are witnessing, but they know it is something. They know the captain of the aircraft is standing in the aisle with his mouth open and his eyes wide, and something close to reverence in his expression. "Oh my God," Captain Torres says again. He takes another step forward. He is not looking at Megan anymore. He is not looking at anyone but Denise. "Captain Carter," he says. The words fall into the silence like stones into still water. "Captain Carter," he repeats. "I cannot believe it." He turns to Megan. His face has transformed from shock to something harder, something colder. "Do you have any idea?" he says, and his voice is quiet, but it carries to every corner of the cabin. "Do you have any idea who this woman is?" Megan blinks. She opens her mouth. No sound comes out. "This," Captain Torres says, "is Captain Denise Carter." He steps closer to Denise's seat. "She trained me. She trained half the pilots in this fleet." He turns to face the cabin, to face the passengers with their phones out and their eyes wide. "This woman," he says, "has more flight hours than any pilot I have ever met. She has flown in combat. She has made emergency landings that saved hundreds of lives." He pauses. He looks at Megan. "And you asked her to leave the aircraft?" Megan's face has gone white. She is shaking her head. She is backing away. "I did not know," she says. "How was I supposed to know? I was just following protocol." Captain Torres's voice drops. It is almost gentle now, but there is steel beneath the gentleness. "Protocol," he says. "Is that what you call it?" He turns back to Denise. "Captain Carter," he says, "I am so sorry. On behalf of this airline, on behalf of this crew, I am profoundly sorry." Denise looks at him. She does not smile. She does not nod. She says, "The protocol is the problem, Michael. It is always the protocol. The cabin is still. The engines hum. The air feels thick, charged with something that has not yet been named." Captain Torres stands in the aisle, with his shoulders squared and his jaw tight, and Denise can see the war inside him, the conflict between deference and action, between apology and accountability. She has seen this war before. She has watched men navigate it her entire career, watched them struggle with the weight of what they were witnessing, watched them choose over and over the path of least resistance. But Michael Torres is different. She knows this because she trained him, because she sat with him in simulators and flew with him on training flights and watched him become the pilot he is today. She knows the kind of man he is, and she knows that he is choosing right now in this moment to be better. He turns to the passengers. His voice is steady. "What you have witnessed today," he says, "is not an isolated incident. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not a mistake." He looks at Megan, who has pressed herself against the bulkhead, who has tears streaming down her face, who is shaking her head over and over as if she can undo what she has done. "This is what happens," Captain Torres continues, "when we allow assumptions to override humanity. When we look at someone and see only what we expect to see. When we judge people by the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. The silence in the cabin is absolute. No one is looking at their phones anymore. Every eye is on the captain, on the woman in 2A, on the flight attendant who is crying silently against the wall. Captain Carter's father, Torres says, and his voice softens now, was one of the first black commercial pilots in America. He flew for almost 30 years. He endured things that most of us cannot imagine. And he raised a daughter who followed him into the sky, who became one of the most respected pilots in this industry, who trained me and dozens of others to fly safely and well. He pauses. He looks at Denise. And today, he says, she was treated like a criminal for sitting in a seat she paid for, because of what she looks like, because someone made assumptions about where she belongs. A woman in 1D has begun to cry. A man in 4C has put his head in his hands. The weight of the moment is pressing down on all of them. The recognition of something ugly and true. The understanding that they are complicit in a system that allowed this to happen. Denise looks at the faces around her. She sees shame. She sees guilt. She sees the particular discomfort of people who are being forced to confront something they have always known, but have chosen not to see. She does not feel satisfaction. She does not feel triumph. She feels tired. She feels the weight of 62 years, the weight of thousands of flights, the weight of every time she has had to prove herself to someone who had already decided she did not belong. She remembers her father's words. The sky does not care who you are, but the people on the ground will never let you forget. Megan is removed from the flight. A supervisor boards the aircraft, red-faced and sweating, and he speaks in hushed tones to Captain Torres. And then he speaks in hushed tones to Megan. And then Megan is escorted up the jet bridge, with her head down and her hands trembling. She does not look at Denise as she passes. She does not apologize. She simply goes. And the space she occupied is filled by another flight attendant, a woman with kind eyes and gentle hands, who brings Denise a glass of water and says, "Is there anything I can get you, Captain Carter? Anything at all?" Denise takes the water. She thanks the woman. She does not say anything else. The flight departs, 47 minutes late. Captain Torres makes an announcement before they take off. A formal apology to all passengers for the delay. A formal acknowledgement that the delay was caused by the unacceptable behavior of a crew member. He does not name Denise. He does not have to. Everyone knows. The plane rises into the sky, and Denise watches Atlanta fall away beneath her, watches the city become a grid, become a patchwork, become a smudge, become nothing at all. She thinks about her father. She thinks about how many times he sat in this same seat, looking out this same window, watching the same clouds roll past. She thinks about the things he endured so that she could fly. The hatred, the threats, the isolation. She thinks about how he never complained, never asked for sympathy, never let them see him broken. He just kept flying. He just kept rising. He just kept proving over and over that he belonged in the sky. A woman approaches her seat. It is the woman from 1D, the one who was crying earlier. She kneels in the aisle beside Denise's seat, and her eyes are red, and her voice is thick. "I am so sorry," she says. "I should have said something. I was sitting right there, and I should have said something, and I did not, and I am so sorry." Denise looks at her. She sees the guilt. She sees the shame. She sees the desperate need for absolution, for forgiveness, for someone to tell her that it is okay, that her silence was understandable, that she is not part of the problem. Denise does not give her that. She says, "Next time, say something." The woman nods. She wipes her eyes. She returns to her seat. And Denise turns back to the window, back to the sky that her father taught her to love. The sky that does not care who she is. The sky that has always been her home. San Francisco appears on the horizon as the sun begins its descent. The city rises from the water like a dream, all golden light and silver bridges. And Denise feels the familiar tightness in her chest that comes at the end of every flight, the mixture of relief and loss that never quite goes away. She has spent so much of her life in the sky that the ground sometimes feels like a foreign country. The plane touches down smoothly. Captain Torres's voice comes over the intercom, thanking the passengers for their patience, wishing them well on their travels. The cabin stirs. People stand, stretch, reach for their bags. They move around Denise with a deference that was not there before, a carefulness that borders on reverence. They do not quite meet her eyes. They do not quite know what to say. An older man in a suit pauses beside her seat. He clears his throat. "Captain Carter," he says. She looks up at him. "I just wanted to say," he continues, "that what happened to you was unconscionable. And I wanted to say that I have flown on planes you piloted over the years and I never knew. I never thought about who was in the cockpit. I never considered what it might have taken for someone who looks like you to get there." He pauses. "I am going to think about it now." Denise nods. She does not smile, but she does not frown either. "Thinking is a start," she says. "But thinking is not enough. You have to act. You have to speak. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable so that other people can be safe." The man nods. He moves on. Denise gathers her things. She stands. She walks up the aisle toward the front of the plane, and as she passes the cockpit, the door opens, and Captain Torres is standing there, still in his uniform, still with the weight of the flight on his shoulders. He looks at her with an expression she has seen before, an expression she has received from every pilot she has ever trained. Gratitude, admiration, something deeper. "Captain Carter," he says, "thank you." She stops. She looks at him. "For what?" she asks. "For not letting them win," he says. "For not shrinking. For being exactly who you have always been. even when it cost you, even when it hurt. She reaches out. She places her hand on his shoulder, the way her father once placed his hand on hers, in a cockpit that smelled of jet fuel and possibility, on a day when she was young and the sky was infinite and everything seemed possible. "Keep flying, Michael," she says. "Keep doing the work. It is not enough to not be part of the problem. You have to be part of the solution." He nods. He does not have words. She does not need them. She steps onto the jet bridge, and the San Francisco air hits her face, cool and salt-tinged and alive. And she thinks about her daughter, waiting somewhere in this city, pregnant with a child who will inherit a world that is still not fair, still not just, still not what it should be, but a world that is perhaps a little bit closer to what it could be, because people like Denise Carter refuse to stop flying. Maya is waiting at the curb in a car that has seen better years. She is 34, with her mother's eyes and her grandfather's stubbornness, and she is enormous with pregnancy, her belly pressing against the steering wheel as she leans over to open the passenger door. "Mom," she says. Her voice carries the particular quality of relief that comes from seeing a loved one arrive safely. "Mom, you are late. I was worried." Denise slides into the passenger seat. She leans over. She kisses her daughter's cheek. "There was an incident," she says. Maya's face changes. Her hands tighten on the steering wheel. "What kind of incident?" Denise shakes her head. "I will tell you later," she says. "Right now, I just want to look at you. I just want to be here." Maya studies her mother's face for a long moment. She knows that expression. She has seen it before, after flights that went wrong, after confrontations that left bruises that did not show on the skin. But she also knows her mother, knows that pushing will not help, knows that the story will come when Denise is ready to tell it. "Okay," Maya says. She pulls away from the curb. She drives through the golden evening light of San Francisco, past the painted ladies and the steep hills and the fog rolling in from the bay. And Denise watches the city pass, and she thinks about all the cities she has seen from the sky, all the places she has landed, all the times she has walked through airports and faced down people who thought she did not belong. She is tired. She has been tired for a long time. But she is still here. She is still flying. She is still refusing to shrink. Maya glances over at her. "The baby kicked this morning," she says, "hard, like she is trying to get out." Denise smiles. They told you." Maya nods. "Last week, a girl." She pauses. "I want to name her after Grandpa." Denise feels something crack inside her, something old and precious and carefully protected. She does not speak. She cannot. She reaches over and she takes her daughter's hand, and she holds it tightly, and she thinks about her father's hands on the controls of a 747, about the way they never shook, about the way he flew through every storm. "Ramona," Maya says. "I know it is unusual, but I want her to know where she comes from. I want her to know who she is named for. I want her to know that she comes from people who flew." Denise nods. The tears are coming now, and she does not try to stop them. "Ramona," she repeats. "Your grandfather would have loved that. He would have loved you. He does love you, wherever he is, whatever comes after. He loves you, and he loves this child, and he is so proud of everything you are." Maya pulls the car over. She puts it in park. She turns to her mother, and they hold each other in the front seat of that old car, on two women from a family of flyers, and they cry for the man who taught them both what it means to rise above. The video surfaces 3 days later. Someone on the plane was recording. Someone is always recording now. The footage shows everything. Patricia at the gate smirking, Brittany laughing, the supervisor condescending, Megan demanding that Denise leave the aircraft, and then Captain Torres, emerging from the cockpit, his face transforming as he recognizes the woman in 2A, Captain Carter. "I cannot believe it. Do you have any idea who this woman is?" The video goes viral in hours. It is shared hundreds of thousands of times. It appears on news programs, on morning shows, on social media feeds around the world. People are outraged. People are inspired. People are reminded once again that the systems they have built are not fair. They are not just, are not what they should be. The airline releases a statement. They are deeply sorry. They are committed to diversity and inclusion. They will be reviewing their policies. They will be conducting training. They will be doing better. It is the same statement they always release. It is the statement every institution releases when they are caught, when the cameras are rolling, when the world is watching. Denise does not read the statement. She does not watch the coverage. She sits in her daughter's living room in San Francisco, and she holds her daughter's hand, and she feels the baby kick beneath her palm, and she thinks about the future, about Ramona, who will inherit a world that is still not fair, about the work that remains to be done, about the sky, which does not care who you are, which has always been the one place where she could be free. The phone rings. It is a reporter wanting a comment. Maya answers. She says firmly, "My mother is not giving interviews." She hangs up. She looks at Denise. "You do not have to talk to them," she says. "You do not owe them anything." Denise shakes her head. "I know," she says, "but I have spent my whole life not talking, staying quiet, being dignified, being so good they could not ignore me." She pauses. Maybe it is time to be loud. Maya studies her mother's face. "And what would you say?" Denise thinks about it. She thinks about her father. She thinks about the 37 years she spent in the sky. She thinks about every time she was questioned, doubted, dismissed. She thinks about the woman in yoga pants who spoke up. She thinks about the woman in 1D who did not. She thinks about all the people who watched and did nothing, and all the people who watched and tried. "I would say," Denise begins, "that this is not about one flight attendant. This is not about one airline. This is about all of us, about the assumptions we make, about the people we overlook, about the stories we tell ourselves about who belongs and who does not." She pauses. "I would say that my father gave everything so that I could fly, and I gave everything so that others could fly after me. And the work is not done. It will never be done until every person can walk into any space and be seen for who they are, not what they look like." 6 months pass. The leaves change color and fall. The baby is born. Ramona Carter Williams enters the world screaming, her fists balled, her voice strong, her eyes dark and ancient and wise. And Denise holds her granddaughter in the hospital room, and she looks into those eyes, and she sees her father. She sees herself. She sees generations of people who refuse to stop flying. "You are going to face so much, little one," she whispers. "People will doubt you. People will dismiss you. People will look at you and see only what they expect to see." Her voice catches. "But you come from people who flew. You come from people who never stopped rising. And you will rise too. You will rise so high that they will have to look up to see you." Maya watches from the hospital bed, exhausted and radiant. She does not speak. She does not have to. Denise kisses her granddaughter's forehead. She breathes in the smell of new life, of possibility, of a future that is still being written. She thinks about the sky. She thinks about the clouds that do not segregate themselves, the wind that does not ask where you come from, the endless blue that has always been her home. She is 62 years old. She has logged 23,000 flight hours. She has made emergency landings and trained hundreds of pilots and endured more prejudice than most people could imagine. And she is still here. She is still rising. She is still, after everything, refusing to shrink. The video is still out there. People are still watching. The airline has made changes, real changes, not just statements, but policies, training, accountability. Captain Torres has spoken publicly about what he witnessed. The flight attendant, Megan, has issued an apology, tearful and public and possibly sincere. The world has moved on to other outrages, other stories, and other moments of injustice caught on camera. But something has shifted. Something has changed. Not enough, never enough, but something. And that is how it happens, Denise knows. Not in grand sweeping revolutions, but in small, painful increments, in moments of confrontation and moments of grace, in the choices people make when no one is watching, and the choices they make when everyone is, in the refusal, over and over, to stop flying. She looks at her granddaughter, at this tiny person, who will inherit a world that is still not fair, still not just, still not what it should be. And she makes a promise. She makes the same promise her father made to her all those years ago, in a cockpit that smelled of jet fuel and possibility. "I will teach you," she whispers. "I will teach you what my father taught me. The sky does not care who you are, but the people on the ground will never let you forget. So you have to be better. You have to know more. You have to work harder. You have to be so good that they cannot ignore you. And then, little one, then you fly anyway. Have you ever been dismissed because of how you look? Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air change around you? Felt the weight of assumptions pressing down? Felt the particular loneliness of being seen but not recognized? Have you ever been so good that they could not ignore you and been ignored anyway? This is not just Denise Carter's story. This is the story of every person who has ever had to prove their right to exist in a space where others move freely. It is the story of every pilot who faced down hatred at 30,000 feet, every doctor who was mistaken for cleaning staff, every professor who was asked if she was lost, every person who has been questioned at gates and doors and thresholds, asked again and again to justify their presence, to verify their credentials, to prove that they belong. It is exhausting, it is enraging, it is, in the deepest sense, unjust. And it will not end until all of us, every one of us, decides to make it end. Not with statements, not with policies, not with training videos and diversity initiatives and carefully worded apologies, but with action, with speech, with the willingness to be uncomfortable so that others can be safe. The woman in yoga pants spoke up. She saw what was happening and she named it. She did not wait for permission. She did not worry about causing a scene. She just spoke. That is what it takes. That is what it means to be part of the solution. Not grand gestures, not heroic interventions. Just the simple, difficult choice to open your mouth when you see injustice. To say, this is wrong. To stand beside the person who is being diminished and say, I see you. I believe you. You belong. Denise Carter spent 37 years in the sky. She trained hundreds of pilots. She made emergency landings that saved lives. She did everything right, was better than everyone else, knew more, worked harder, stayed calmer. And still, at 62 years old, she was asked to prove that she had paid for her seat. That is the world we live in. That is the world we have built. And that is the world we must change. Not someday, not when it is convenient, not when the cameras are rolling. Now, today, in every interaction, in every assumption we catch ourselves making, in every moment when we have the choice to speak or stay silent. Ramona Carter Williams will grow up in a world that is still not fair. But maybe, if we do the work, if we make the choices, if we refuse to stop trying, she will grow up in a world that is a little bit closer to what it should be. A world where people are seen for who they are. A world where the sky truly does not care who you are, and neither do the people on the ground. That is the world Raymond Carter dreamed of when he flew B-52s over Vietnam. That is the world Denise Carter worked for when she broke barriers in the cockpit. That is the world we owe them. That is the world we owe ourselves. So the next time you see someone being diminished, dismissed, denied their dignity, think about Denise Carter in seat 2A. Think about the people who watched and did nothing. Think about the woman who spoke up, and choose. Choose to be the person who speaks. Choose to be the person who acts. Choose to be the person who refuses to stop flying. Because the sky is big enough for all of us. And it is time we started acting like it.